while I was doing that, I didn't have a degree. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working for companies. Uh, I could not work for companies because I didn't have a degree. But I learned that if I owned my own company, I could work for them as a contractor and charge them three times more. Hope somebody get that.
Wow.
I literally could not work for many of the companies that I contracted with because I didn't have a degree. Okay. Um, and so, with that said, I learned very, very quickly about the power of having a business.
You got challenges that you're going to run across.
All right. So, welcome to another episode of Elite Psyche, the show. We're not the pod anymore. We're the show. And on Elite Psyche, we talk to individuals about elite things, people who have had success in life, and they usually have been through some challenges, and that's where the mental toughness part comes in at. And so we try to find out things about that when we interview. But today we're doing a little bit different. I got a guest host. So I got a guest host today, which is a partner of mine, Mr. Mark Sterling over here. And I've been knowing Mark for since probably 2005 or 2006, something like that, maybe 2004. And so I asked him today to be a guest host for me. And we're going to talk about a lot of things from movies to mindset stuff, all kind of things we're going to talk about. But before we get started, I'm going to give Mark 60 seconds to talk about where he's from, and then another 60 seconds to talk about what he's been doing in life. So let's hear about this Baltimore thing, man, and for the first 60.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say Baltimore, but again, if I'm in Baltimore, I'm gonna say Baltimore.
Baltimore, okay.
Baltimore, Maryland, not Maryland,
Maryland, okay.
Maryland. So, I always say, man, I love my hometown. Atlanta has fed me, but ATL bred me. So that's I'll leave that there for my folks from back home. They know what that means. I've been in Atlanta now exactly half my life. So I've been, 27 and a half years in Baltimore, 27 and a half years here in Atlanta. Man, it's been an amazing, amazing ride. Baltimore will make you or break you very quickly. It'll forge your character in ways that are, whether you're autistic, whether you're, highly educated, whether you have a neighborhood affiliation, whatever it is, you're going to find who you are very quickly. It's going to make you raise up very quickly, and it's a beautiful place to be from. I will never trade that part of my life at all. So, but then again, it gave me my street smarts, my savvy, my swag. I think I can say that without sounding. I think that's more of a confidence than a cockiness. And then also moving to Atlanta. Atlanta showed me that you can actually reach for different things, and people can come together and really want to create something special without always having to be concerned if someone's trying to take it from you. I've been blessed to be around people here in Atlanta. I'm not saying other places aren't like this. I've been blessed to be around people in Atlanta that I can collaborate with and do things to grow in a way that most people might not show you in many other places. So I'm excited about that. So those are kind of my two experiential rooted places that have made me who I am today.
Okay, cool. So background, now, I met you at a MLM meeting, network marketing meeting. I have been doing it, I probably have been involved in the industry probably about 8-9 years when I met you. And I remember you just bouncing around the place, excited about what you were seeing. And I think your background was, what was it? Something to do with computers, or what were you doing at the time?
I was a systems analyst. I had an IT background. Wasn't a developer in IT. I was the guy between the guys. So pause. That didn't sound right. I was the guy.
Right.
I was the guy who took the requirements. I say that, a telephone company, wireless company said, hey, we want the system to do X, Y, and Z. I would get the requirements, document them, give them to the developers, write the test cases. I would do all those kind of things. I was a systems analyst for many years. And one thing I learned, I'm glad you brought that up, Tony. While I was doing that, I didn't have a degree. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working for companies. I could not work for companies because I didn't have a degree. But I learned that if I owned my own company, I could work for them as a contractor and charge them 3 times more. Hope somebody gets that.
Wow.
I literally could not work for many of the companies that I contracted with because I didn't have a degree. Okay. And so with that said, I learned very, very quickly about the power of having a business. And now I'm talking about in network marketing, direct sale. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just in traditional corporate America. And so that was a lesson learned very, very early. Now, once I was in those positions, I could be offered opportunities because there's a concept called past performance. People say, you know what, we'll bring you on because we see your work history, your work ethic, and we see the output, the fruit of that labor, right? So I was offered positions after those things, so that was that.
So
Now,
so let me get this right. So you're saying they didn't hire you because you didn't have a college degree.
yes.
But you had the skills because I guess you learned that how did you learn the skills?
It's funny. I was working in Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta from I was actually in Raleigh for 1 year, a year and a week. I was there a year too long. So, so I came to Atlanta, man. I'll tell you that Atlanta was powerful for me. I'm going to tell you why I got here. I got here, my belief, based on the power of intention. Didn't understand it. I was an unconscious confident. So I visited Atlanta in '94. Came down for 4th of July and Freaknik, right?
Go on, say that. Don't throw 4th of July in there. You can't kind of Freaknik.
And then, okay, you got it. So I came down to business for some events. Right?
Yeah.
And I met some amazing people, man. I was playing spades, man. People were frying fish, and they weren't charged. You just come to the cookout, and the foods were there, man, and the beautiful women, and I saw people driving these amazing cars, and some of the clubs didn't open until 1 a.m. I was blown. So when I left there, I went back to an environment where I might have, again, I was single at the time, dated 2 people in a year, just going out. I'm because Raleigh at the time was a city that if you weren't married or in college, it was difficult to make new associations, right?
Right.
So, and so I was so laser focused, never at that time read Think and Grow Rich, but man, I had the power, chapter 11, man, the sexual transmutation, right? So I was so locked in. I said, man, I will live in that city at some point. I didn't know how. And I can't make this up, Tony. 6 weeks later, I was working at a call center in Raleigh for a wireless company. These people walk in, these 6 ladies walk in, and they had this impromptu meeting and said, hey, we need to transport part of the call volume from here to our new call center in Atlanta, and we're going to pay people to come down. Who wants to volunteer? That was a few months later, and 6 weeks after that, I was actually in Atlanta. So the power of intention, I was so focused on it. I didn't care how it happened. I didn't focus on what to do to make it happen. Now, mind you, had I not set the intention, had I never visited and then set the intention, I probably would never raised my hand.
Right.
But just being aware, your vibration will bring things to you that maybe you didn't anticipate in the first place.
A lot of people, and I'm not saying you, but a lot of people didn't know about Atlanta and the beauty that it had and the things that was going on and how it was growing until Freaknik. Freaknik brought a lot of people here, and then the Olympics, and it was over with because everybody had come here then. It was everything new, everything was building, everything was growing, and people were like, wow, I didn't even know this was sitting here. You know what I'm saying? So
that's called the law of unintended consequences. So people, you may do something with one intention, but the byproduct that you're not even thinking about actually happens. So I came down for the events. Right.
Right.
So I wind up seeing all these other things.
Right.
I saw opportunity. I saw jobs. I saw experiences. I saw history. Right.
Yeah.
I saw people, and I said, man. And again, I didn't understand. One of my lifelong lessons is understanding the power of belief, and I think they're impacted by 4 things: words, images, emotions, and environment. You and I talked about that previously.
Yeah.
So being in an environment actually allowed me to believe that I could have the things that I saw. I knew what I wanted. I just
Mhm.
didn't realize I was not in the right environment at the time to actually make them happen.
And think about it, man. We could talk about this all day, but think about it. At that time, no social media, no internet, so people didn't know. They couldn't even go to YouTube and pull up Atlanta. You had to come here and actually, in trying to explain it to people, they probably like, yeah, right, yeah. But you had to be here, man. So, but back to, you started a company. So you started, was it an LLC?
Yeah.
And then you went back to those companies and said, hey, I can contract for you, but you had to pay me 6 figures to do it.
Sure.
But they wouldn't hire you.
I'll give you one example, perfect example. Now, I'd moved during my time in Atlanta. I'm working at a call center. I went into management. I followed the path. I went into management, became a call center supervisor. Then they said, hey, we need supervisors in Houston, Texas. I went there for a year. And while I'm there, now I went from $27,000 a year back then to $42,000 in Houston, Texas for a year. While I'm in Houston, Texas, one of the other call center guys, my peer supervisor, he said, hey, this company is bringing people on. They need people with telephony experience like you and I, and IT. I said, I don't have any IT experience. He said, they'll train you on their systems. I said, well, I don't know. I said, where's it at? Atlanta. That's where it starts at. That's the corporate office. I said, oh, I get a chance to go back to Atlanta. That's cool. I'm open. How much? I said, what are they paying? Hey, you probably have to start off in the low 80s. You're going to double my income. I can't go back. So that I went back, right? And I started seeing that they were, 4 weeks after training, I'm in Argentina and I'm working. A few months later, I'm in Rio de Janeiro. A few months later, I'm in Mexico City, and I'm working for all these contracts, same company, different contracts, right? So I'm working at all these different places. Now I'm traveling the world, right? And I'm looking back, and I'm like 6 months ago. Now, while I'm in Argentina, I'm talking to a guy that I met. He lives in Atlanta as well, Clifton Burney. If you see this, Cliff, what's up, partner? And he's from Jacksonville, Mississippi.
Okay. You mean Jackson, Mississippi, not Jacksonville.
I'm sorry,
Jackson. Okay.
Jackson, right. Yeah, you're right. And he grew up in a single wide. I grew up in the projects in Baltimore, and we're sitting on this street called I think it's El Nuevo de something, a Junio. It's like the 9th. It's like July 4th in Spanish, right? But it's June 9th. It's their Independence Day Avenue, and it's 8 lanes each way. It's wider than I-85, right? Okay. Each way, it's like 16 lanes. It's like one of the widest streets in the world. We're sitting there on the corner at a cafe. I'm having a beer, and we're eating they got little nuts, little different olives, the little things on the table, right? And I had a moment that said,
make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the all button and all that kind of stuff, because we're going to have a lot of good interviews on this podcast.